10 days or a fortnight quite recent enough to be hunted out. We also heard that Miranda struck from the west end of the Sierra Ventana, in a direct line to the island of Cholechel, situated 70 leagues up the Rio Negro. This is a distance of between 200 and 300 miles, through a country completely unknown. What other troops in the world are so independent? With the sun for their guide, mare's flesh for food, their saddle cloths for beds, as long as there is a little water, these men would penetrate to the end of the world. A few days afterwards, I saw another troop of these banditti-like soldiers start on an expedition against a tribe of Indians at the small Salinas, who had been betrayed by a prisoner cacique. The Spaniard who had brought the orders for this expedition was a very intelligent man. He gave me an account of the last engagement at which he was present. Some Indians, who had been taken prisoners, gave information of a tribe living north of the Colorado. 200 soldiers were sent, and they first discovered the Indians by a cloud of dust from their horses' feet as they chanced to be traveling. The country was mountainous and wild, and it must have been far in the interior, for the Cordillera were in sight. The Indians, men, women, and children, were about 110 in number, and they were nearly all taken or killed, for the soldiers sabre every man. The Indians are now so terrified that they offered no resistance in a body, but each flies, neglecting even his wife and children. But when overtaken, like wild animals, they fight against any number to the last moment. One dying Indian seized with his teeth the thumb of his adversary, and allowed his own eye to be forced out sooner than relinquish his hold. Another, who was wounded, feigned death, keeping a knife ready to strike one more fatal blow. My informer said, when he was pursuing an Indian, the man cried out for mercy, at the same time that he was covertly loosing the bolas from his waist, meaning to whirl it round his head and so strike his pursuer. Quote, "I however struck him with my sabre to the ground, and then got off my horse, and cut his throat with my knife." Unquote. This is a dark picture. But how much more shocking is the unquestionable fact that all the women who appear above 20 years old are massacred in cold blood. When I exclaimed that this appeared rather inhuman, he answered, quote, "Why, what can be done? They breed so." Unquote. Everyone here is fully convinced that this is the most just war, because it is against barbarians. Who would believe in this age that such atrocities could be committed in a Christian civilized country? The children of the Indians are saved, to be sold or given away as servants, or rather slaves, for as long a time as the owners can make them believe themselves slaves. But I believe in their treatment there is little to complain of. In the battle 4 men ran away together. They were pursued. 1 was killed, and the other 3 were taken alive. They turned out to be messengers or ambassadors from a large body of Indians, united in the common cause of defense near the Cordillera. The tribe to which they had been sent was on the point of holding a grand council. The feast of mare's flesh was ready, and the dance prepared. In the morning the ambassadors were to have returned to the Cordillera. They were remarkably fine men, very fair, above 6 feet high, and all under 30 years of age. The 3 survivors, of course, possessed very valuable information, and to extort this they were placed in a line. The 2 first being questioned answered, "No sé," I do not know, and were one after the other shot. The 3rd also said, "No sé," adding, quote, "Fire. I am a man, and can die." Not one syllable would they breathe to injure the united cause of their country. The conduct of the above-mentioned cacique was very different. He saved his life by betraying the intended plan of warfare, and the point of union in the Andes. was believed that they were already 600 or 700 Indians together, and that in summer their numbers would be doubled. Ambassadors were to have been sent to the Indians at the small Salinas, near Bahia Blanca, whom I have mentioned that the same cacique had betrayed. The communication, therefore, between the Indians extends from the Cordillera to the coast of the Atlantic. General Rosas's plan is to kill all stragglers, and having driven the remainder to a common point, to attack them in a body, in the summer, with the assistance of the Chilenos. This operation is to be repeated for 3 successive years. I imagine the summer is chosen as the time for the main attack, because the plains are then without water, and the Indians can only travel in particular directions. The escape of the Indians to the south of the Rio Negro, where in such a vast unknown country they would be safe, is prevented by a treaty with the Tehuelches to this effect, that Rosas pays them so much to slaughter every Indian who passes to the south of the river. But if they fail in so doing, they themselves are to be exterminated. The war is waged chiefly against the Indians near the Cordillera, for many of the tribes on this eastern side are fighting with Rosas. The general, however, like Lord Chesterfield, thinking that his friends may in a future day become his enemies, always places them in the front ranks, so that their numbers may be thinned. Since leaving South America, we have heard that this war of extermination completely failed. Among the captive girls taken in the same engagement, there were 2 very pretty Spanish ones, who had been carried away by the Indians when young, and could now only speak the Indian tongue. From their account, they must have come from Salta, a distance in a straight line of nearly 1,000 miles. This gives one a grand idea of the immense territory over which the Indians roam. Yet, great as it is, I think there will not, in another half-century, be a wild Indian northward of the Rio Negro. The warfare is too bloody to last, the Christians killing every Indian, and the Indians doing the same by the Christians. It is melancholy to trace how the Indians have given way before the Spanish invaders. Schirdel says that in 1535, when Buenos Aires was founded, there were villages containing 2,000 and 3,000 inhabitants. Even in Falconer's time, 1750, the Indians made inroads as far as Luxan, Areco, and Arrecife. But now they are driven beyond the Salado. Not only have whole tribes been exterminated, but the remaining Indians have become more barbarous. Instead of living in large villages and being employed in the arts of fishing, as well as of the chase, they now wander about the open plains, without home or fixed occupation. I heard also some account of an engagement which took place, a few weeks previously to the one mentioned, at Cholechel. This is a very important station on account of being a pass for horses, and it was, in consequence, for some time the headquarters of a division of the army. When the troops first arrived there, they found a tribe of Indians, of whom they killed 20 or 30. The cacique escaped in a manner which astonished everyone. The chief Indians always have 1 or 2 picked horses, which they keep ready for any urgent occasion. On one of these, an old white horse, the cacique sprung, taking with him his little son. The horse had neither saddle nor bridle. To avoid the shots, the Indian rode in the peculiar method of his nation, namely, with an arm round the horse's neck, and one leg only on its back. Thus hanging on one side, he was seen patting the horse's head and talking to him. The pursuers urged every effort in the chase. The commandant 3 times changed his horse, but all in vain. The old Indian father and his son escaped and were free. What a fine picture one can form in one's mind! The naked, bronze-like figure of the old man with his little boy, riding like a Mazepa on a white horse, thus leaving far behind him the host of his pursuers. I saw one day a soldier striking fire with a piece of flint, which I immediately recognized as having been part of the head of an arrow. He told me it was found near the island of Cholechel,